Um, First and foremost, I would like to thank my senior, Mr. R. Muthukumar Sami, whom she just mentioned. He is my senior, he is my guru, he is my God. If not for my senior, I wouldn't be standing here in front of all of you today. So I would like to thank my senior, Mr. R. Muthukumar Sami, who is no longer with me. If not for him, I wouldn't be standing here in front of all of you. So next, I would like to thank the people who have given the foreword for the book. Honorable Justice S. Vaidyanathan, who is former Chief Justice of Meghalaya High Court. I would like to at this point of time thank Mr. N. Ravi, who is the former Chief Editor of the Hindu group of companies, who is the descendant of Kasturi Rangan Iyengar. And last but not the least, I would also like to thank Sri T.S. Krishnan, who is a great grandson of Subramanya Shiva, who's residing in Secunderabad, but today he couldn't come at the last moment due to inclement weather. He couldn't come. So he has also given the foreword. And various people who have been associated, for example, Mr. K.V. Balasubramaniam and Mr. Om Prakash. And also in Telugu, we have the Telugu translator, Mr. Vetulla Narasimhan, who has also translated the book in Telugu. So I would like to thank all of them. I would like to also thank Mr. Sandeep of Center for South Indian Studies. I would like to thank Center for South Indian Studies. Most importantly, I would like to thank Mr. Kumaresan over here. I would like all of you to please give a round of applause for him. Please get up, Ji. Let them see. It's Mr. Kumaresan here. He is the blue-eyed boy of CSIS in Madras. So that's why he's wearing a blue dress today. Kumaresan ji, if not for his help, I mean, we have worked very hard. We have burned the midnight oil, and we have struggled very hard to have written this book and to have done this. And also, I would like to thank a few editors who have helped me in me releasing this book. Also, the Governor of Madras, Honorable Sri R.N. Raviji. Without his cooperation, I wouldn't be standing here. So I would like to thank him profusely for all the help that he has done. I would also like to thank the Pachepa institution at this point of time, who have agreed for a memorial on the 6th of September, because he is one of the main important trustees of the Pachepa institution, which is the beacon of hope. So I would like to thank them at this moment. I would like to thank G, who is sitting there right now, and Ayush Ji, who is sitting there right now. I would also like to thank Sunil Ambedkar Ji and various people, including Prasob Ji of Chennai, who has been of great help to us. I would like to also thank my parents, my wife and my daughter, and most importantly, I would like to thank my friends in the legal community, and last but not the least, my office colleagues. My present seniors, Mr. Jinasen. If not for his support, I wouldn't be here today. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank my present senior, Mr. A. Jinasenan, his son Abhishek Jinasenan, and all my office colleagues who have been supportive of me in doing this particular work. I would like to also thank the Tamil Nadu State Archives. If not for their permission, I wouldn't have done this book. I would like to thank the Kanimara Library, Mr. Singaravelan, in the old Kanimara Library, who has helped us a lot by giving us the almanac. Maureen Heath of the British Library in London, and Scott Travanna Connors of Cornwall and Gaius College and University of Cambridge, Mr. J.S. Vishnu Hariram and Vishnu Achyuta Menon, who have been helpful to me as as a great help, as a solid force in me writing this book. Mr. Satish of CSIS, also Dharani, and also our, please get up, Mr. Arvind here of CSIS. Thank you. All the staff of CSIS in Hyderabad and of Samit Prakasham. Samit Prakasham are the publishers. Ma'am, thank you so much for this particular thing. Please, sir, please get up now, please. If not for Samit Prakasham, this work would not have come out. You have a great role to play in publishing this book. So I would like to thank you so much, ma'am, for giving me an opportunity to write and for you to publish this book. Thank you so much.
So there are many of us. And secondly, we are indebted to you.
Thanks, ma'am. Thanks, ma'am. Thanks so much. Thanks, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I would also like to, at this point of time, thank Advocate Mr. Sharma of New Delhi. His name is Mayank Sharma of New Delhi. He had helped me in getting the copyright. You know, most important thing as an advocate, as you all know, that we need to have the copyright for maintaining the originality of the book. So, to maintain the originality of the book, to stay with us, we got the copyright from the Copyright Office. So, I would like to also thank the Copyrights Office of the Ministry of Human Resources and Development Government of India. I would also like to thank the journalists in the Madras High Court. You know, since I come from the legal background, we have an association in Madras High Court called the Madras High Court Journalists Association, and we have various journalists attached to Madras High Court who cover our proceedings regularly. To make this reach also to the public, they have played a very pivotal role, and they were very selfless in doing so. So, I would like to thank them also at this point of time. I would also thank Mr. Ganesh and Dinesh, who are two brothers who have helped me in ensuring that this book has come out. And last but not the least, the person who asked me to write this book was a person called Mr. Ram Kumar, who is not here, who is the managing director of Gemini Communications and Amion Lab. Ram Kumar sir has been a pillar of great support for me, and in fact few aspects in this book, you know, the entire book which I wrote was initially, we didn't have a plan or thinking of writing a book, but it was Mr. Ram Kumar's support that ensured that I finally decided we will write this book, and come what may, whatever happens, we will make sure that this story is told in a very neutral, unbiased manner. There will be no bias or anything to see from a particular perspective. So, it will be done in a very unbiased manner. And that is why we have a chapter called A Few Good Englishmen also in the book. So, it's to say more of that. So, I would like to thank all of them who have helped me in releasing this book. Coming to the book, about this person, G has already spoken about this person. His name is Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty. There is a person called Sidulu Chetty who lived in Madras. The story starts from 1806, where you had a person called Sidulu Chetty who resided in Madras. Now, he was a very big cotton merchant. He was equal in riches to one of the most richest people in Madras at the point of time, and he shared shoulders with people like Binni of the Buckingham and Carnatic Mills and the Binni Mills. You have Arbuthnot, who was a very rich person, and Orcharloni, and various other rich people who were there in Madras at that point of time. So, he was one of the first native founding members of the Madras Chamber of Commerce. Now, there is a street which is there in his name called Sadula Street, which still exists in Madras in his honor, called Sidulu Street, which is still there in the area of Chula in Madras. In that background, he was born. Gazulu Lakshminarasu Chetty was born. And he was born, as we know, he is born to a very, very wealthy family. In fact, to one of the most wealthiest families in Madras. To say that he was the Ambani of Madras Presidency at that point of time, or Adani of Madras Presidency, it would not be an exaggeration. And being born to such an illustrious family, he could see widespread torture, he could see the brutality of the British, he could see how we as native Indians were being trampled by the British on all walks of life. So, what he decided was that at one point of time it was so unbearable that he decided that he had to do something for the natives, because God had endowed him with such a big industry. The company's name was Sidulu Chetty and Sons. Sidulu Chetty and Sons was a veritable name because in trade they had been manufacturing handkerchiefs. They were indulging in cotton trade, in export of cotton, in indigo dye, muslin, and they had exported to various countries like the Americas and to Great Britain and to France and to various other countries. And such a big company at that point of time, Sidulu Chetty and Sons was not an ordinary company. It was such a big company at that point of time that he got the mantle to run that company. And despite at that point of time running that company, he got time to do all of these things that he has done. That is the most important aspect that we have to understand. Now, imagine this, in 1836, in 1833 actually, because I think right now we are in Telangana, it was previously unified Andhra. In 1833 we had something called as the Guntur famine, where millions and millions of people died. I don't know how many of you know this in history. In 1833 we had one of the worst famines in the Madras Presidency called as the Guntur famine, which was a man-made artificial famine by the British. Now 500,000 people, in fact more than that, the account what we know right now is 500,000 people, but more than that died, and there was widespread poverty. They just ensured that our backbone was, buckled down. We had to buckle down under the British pressure. What was a thriving, successful economic region for the British? The entire Madras Presidency. You want rice? We had rice bowls. You want cotton? We had ample cotton fields. You need cash crops? We had huge cash crops. You need to do trade? We had wealthy, intelligent tradesmen, businessmen, political acumen. Everything was there endowed in the entire Madras Presidency I am talking about. You had military leaders, everybody was there. Everything was available at plenty in Madras Presidency even before the British had arrived. In 1833, this famine happens, and then the Madras Chamber of Commerce is formed by Sidulu, Chetty and Sons, and also by various other people at that point of time, including the British. The native Indians at that point of time, one of the most prominent native Indians as a founding member of Madras Chamber of Commerce is Sidulu, Chetty and Sons. In 1838, what happens in Madras is something which is very appalling. The British tried to introduce government, they try to distinguish between schools which is run by Indians, where we give Veda Padashalas, we give 3 teachings through Veda Padashalas. We also give teachings through various other sources, and we also have our own native system. In fact, at that point of time we had community learning, which was sustained as a result of continuous endowment of land, which will ensure that the education for the native Indians sustained. The largest number of benefactors through the community which was surviving, community sense, I am talking as native community as a whole, as we Indians as a whole, was the present days people whom we called as a scheduled caste Dalit people. They were the largest benefactors. 75% of them who studied the education at that point of time were Dalits. So we had to give back to the society, because this is the land of Saint Ramanuja, where discrimination on the basis of caste was not allowed, and the word called Tirukulathar was applied by Saint Ramanuja to say that everybody who is born in this world is equal in the eyes of God. This principle was propounded in Tamil Nadu by Saint Ramanuja 1000 years back. This we have to understand. Now in 1839, what happens is, on the 11th of November 1839, we have a petition which is drawn. The reference number is MSSEUR 762. This is the reference number of the petition. It is available even now in St. Pancras room, in St. Pancras reading room in the British Library in London. Even now it is available. That particular scroll has about 70,000 signatures. Not one, not two, it has 70,000 signatures. Imagine for a moment, you don't have electricity, you don't have telephone, you don't have WhatsApp, you don't have telegraph, you don't have railways, nothing. You don't have email, you don't have any kind of communication. How can you mobilize 70,000 people for them to come and sign? And this is even now today preserved. This is the scroll petition which we have taken. The photo is there. Even today it is preserved in the British Library in London. And I would like to thank the British Library for giving a photo of that through Scott Trevano Corners and for acknowledging its presence over there in London. Imagine for a moment, so much of signatures is given to the governor at that point of time. The governor at that point of time is Lord Elphinstone. Now he receives the petition. The petition contains 5 important demands of the people of Madras. Number 1, there has to be religious neutrality as far as the education is concerned, which means that when the British is giving education, you should be neutral as far as religion is concerned, and you should not have any favoritism
towards a particular religion. Point 1. Point number 2, insofar as the education aspect is concerned, native Indians shall be given importance and higher position as far as education is concerned. This is the second thing. The third most important thing is, we as native Indians have our own system of having community the schools that was completely destroyed by the British. So, we wanted to ensure that we empower ourselves to have our own native Indian schools, which would be equal and it will be parallel to universities like Oxford and like Cambridge, which we could start here in Madras with our own funding, with our own money, with our own teachers for our own people, and it will just be administered or overseen by the British and they will not interfere. These were one of the most key demands which was there in the 1839 petition. On 1/1/1840, Sir George Norton, who was the Advocate General of the Supreme Court of Madras at that point of time, was appointed as the president of something called as the Madras University in Pantheon Road. We have the Madras University building right now over here in Beach in Madras. That building came subsequently in 1860s. The actual place where the Madras University functioned was in Pantheon Road. We have that evidence also, which we have given in the book. Tomorrow if somebody comes and says, it is because of the British, the benevolence of the British, that you have Madras University created, because Madras University, as you know, is considered to be the mother of all universities across the presidency in Madras. I am talking about including Telangana, including Andhra, including Karnataka, including Mysore, including the Malabar coast, and including up to Orissa and Ganjam. Till there, people came to study in Madras University subsequently after it was established. So, Madras University was considered to be the mother of all universities, because it was one of the most important first universities which was established at the point of time by the British. The British did not do it out of benevolence towards the natives. The British did that because of the pressure which was put upon by them as a result of the scroll petition. And next time if somebody is going to come and say it was the British who gave us the education, yes, they gave it because we pressured them to give this education to us. The second thing which happened was the opening of a very historical institution. We had a person called Pachepa Modalyar who died at a very young age. He was a Dubash under British East India Company. He amassed large amount of land, acres and acres of land. So, what he did was he drew a will, and that will was drawn somewhere in 1750s. About literally about 80 years after his death, Sir George Norton, after seeing this pressure which was there, felt that what the natives were saying is correct. So, Sir George Norton went and told to Elphinstone, we can do one more thing, this is half finished, I want to ensure that I make sure that this will, what is there in the contents of the will, because in the contents of the will that Pachepa left, to start Veda Padashalas is also there, and to start native education for the people of Madras Presidency. That was his most important thing, and endowment to various public charities, including for various pagodas. Pagodas are religious temples. Temples what we have, for example, is the Ekamareshwar temple which we have in Kanchipuram, and the Vadaraja Perumal temple which is there in Kanchipuram right now. So, what Pachepa Modalyar did at that point of time was he drew this will. 80 years after the death of Pachepa Modalyar, Sir George Norton came forward. Even now you have a thing called Norton Hall in Pachepa College, named after him, because it was Mr. Norton as Advocate General who ensured that this will comes and sees its fruition and sees the light of the day. So, this was put into force, and Pachepa institution was established in Esplanade in Broadway in Madras, after which in 1849 this grand edifice which is there in the front page of our book, this edifice came into being in 1849. When this edifice came into being in 1849, after that time onwards, one of the key and important trustees of Pachepa College from that point of time onwards for Pachepa charities was Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty. From that point of time onwards till his death, till 1868 when he died, till that time onwards, till that time in Pachepa College or in Pachepa Charities, because the college did not come that point of time, it was a high school then, it was called Pachepa Charities. For Pachepa Charities, Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty was the director in Pachepa institution. This particular portrait which we have in the front copy of the book, even now it is available in Pachepa College. We are having a memorial on the 6th of September in Pachepa College in his honor. The original memorial, probably perhaps the only one existing surviving photo, or rather this painting of Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty, is right now in Pachepa. So, we would like to thank Pachepa College for giving us the permission to do so. Thirdly, what happened after that was there were various native people who had ensured that they got the benefit of having English education. Now, once they did that, they had started becoming equal to an extent with that of the British. So, the British thought that we had to do something, otherwise this will see, once they get the British values, the British value of rule of law and other things comes into fore, then the British knew that their time in India was numbered. This they felt in 1844. So, at that point of time what they did was they wanted to have a clampdown on education. So, what Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty did was at that point of time to ensure that these charitable institutions starts into force and he ensured that the Pachepa charities became a beacon of hope for the native people to get education. Next, coming to printing press, it's a very interesting thing. Till 1843, from what we can see, Augustus Hickey was the first person to have started the Hickey's Gazette in Calcutta. After that, you have various newspapers, like for example in Madras you have the Madras Courier, which was the first newspaper which was owned by the British, which was started in Madras. Then you have the Athenaeum, you had various other newspapers, you had the Spectator, which right now is a very important international newspaper, and then you have something called as the Madras Record, which was the organ of the British people to spread their religion. Now, what happened was at that point of time, the British people had an unwritten rule. There was an apartheid. I hope you know what apartheid means. There was an unwritten apartheid and a general rule that there will be no native Indians who can own a printing press till that point of time. So, what Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty did was, he brought a printing press using his good offices, because he was a very rich man. He had dealings with America and through various other countries and the French too. So, he got a printing press into Madras in number 13 Armenian Street. In number 13 Armenian Street, from what we know from the records, from what we can see, subject to correction, is that he started the first native printing press to be started by a native Indian in 1844. This is not an ordinary thing. We are in 2024. Imagine at that point of time, 180 years before, he started a printing press on his own. It's not an ordinary thing at all. For us, we can think that getting a printing press is, you give the money, you get it. No. It's very tough to start a printing press, that too against the British. It's not an ordinary thing. What he did was, he named the printing press called as the Hindu press. The press was named Hindu. The reason why he did that was, I as a Hindu am proud to be a Hindu. I don't care what you people say about my religion. I have the money. I will start it in the name of Hindu. He didn't start it in his name. He could have started in the name of Sidulu and Chetty. He could have started in the name of Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty or in some other name. He did not do that. He started that press in the name of Hindu, representing that we as people, as collective Hindus, have the potential, have the talent, if given the opportunity, to be equal to you. Next, what he did was something which is very revolutionary. He started a newspaper called as the Madras Crescent. Crescent is named after Shiva's moon of Lord Tiruvannamalai. So, he started this newspaper called Madras Crescent. Now, there is a letter which we have kept in this book, which is dating back to 1848. In that letter, Captain C.P. Brown, or rather Commander C.P. Brown or whoever he is the Chief Postmaster General of entire Madras Presidency. He writes a letter to the Chief Secretary of Madras, stating with the tabulation column as to the names of the newspapers and to the list of the number of periodicals, that is the number of publishing circulation of each and every newspaper. What we can find astonishing at that point of time is that in 1848, in the month of March, the Madras Crescent, which is owned by Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty, has 10,700 subscribers. I am talking about 1848. Telegraph did not come here. There was no telegram. There was nothing. Just imagine the paperwork alone. Paperwork alone at that point of time, you imagine 10,700 subscribers at that point of time. It is not an ordinary thing. And the editor at that point of time, he had a habit of not having Indian editors for English language magazine. For other newspapers, he had Indians. That's a different issue. As far as the English newspaper of Madras Crescent is concerned, it was tri-weekly, bi-weekly. Imagine people had the money and the capacity to subscribe for it by giving 2 rupees per month and 12 rupees per annum. It is equal to many tens of thousands today, adjusted to inflation. This is not an ordinary thing at all. And at that point of time, just imagine this for a moment. 10,700 subscribers are with you. What he did was something which was revolutionary. He started bringing out news items which was taking the British in the back foot. Now, he was not idle. He did not say the British did this, so we support the British, we are happy with the British. No, he did not do that. He did something which was very revolutionary. All the editors in the English newspaper of Madras Crescent were Britishers. The longest serving editor for about more than 25 years was Mr. Henry Dexter, who was a former naval officer of the British Navy. Now, the articles that he wrote was published abroad. The articles which was published in the Madras Crescent was also published abroad. To name a few newspapers, let me tell you, Hobart Courier, you have the Hong Kong and China Overseas Mail, you have the Homeward Mail of London, you have Huddersfield Chronicle, you have the Irish Spectator, and you have a large number of news papers available in London who published the news which was there in the Madras Crescent at that point of time. This is not an ordinary thing. If I am a British person, if I am there in London, I would publish the news item which is coming from white owned newspapers. I would not publish something which a native Indian publisher does, but they did that. And the news item which they had did not say that so many people died, we have obituary column, page 3 like what the newspapers have right now. No. It was in the forefront of investigative journalism, because sir is from the journalism perspective. I don't know how many of you are journalists here, but it was in the forefront of investigative journalism. Imagine for a moment, this is the actual thing which happened, which we have the entire set of the summary of the the proceedings with us. The British government publishes various government orders which comes in the government gazette. Alright. One such publication that the British government did not publish, please note this, the British government did not publish, but it was there in the minutes of the members of the governing council, was pertaining to Devasthanams, that is pagodas. Pagodas means temples. How to utilize surplus funds and lands belonging to our Hindu temples, take that money for the betterment of the administration and the colonial administration. This was not published because 3 members within the British council said you will be alarming the natives, don't do that. But the plan was in place, it was not put into fruition. What Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty did was, he took that plan and he published it in the Crescent that the British are going to do this. We have information from our sources. The source's name, they had a nom de plume or an alias called as plain speaking man and Windex. Windex is very important person with the index, and plain speaking man. These were the 2 names based upon which this thing was published. Imagine you are the governor of Madras, what will you do? How furious you will be. You were still not being able to find out how the information were inside. You had 5 white people talking amongst themselves in Fort St. George, That information is going to that native person in number 13 Armenian Street, 2 kilometers away. How did he publish this? They were not able to understand. It turned out there was a person by name Venkatacharyalu Naidu, who was also a person of Telugu background. He was a Telugu translator in the political home department of the British in Fort St. George. Interestingly, we have it here in Telangana. What he did was, the moment he got the copy, he used to translate this into Telugu. 2 copies, one fair copy, one rough copy. So that's what people used to think. But he used to do both. He was an excellent Telugu translator. So what he did was, he used to write 2 copies, because we didn't have Xerox or photo or WhatsApp at that point of time. Instantly, in 2 papers, he used to write the fair copy itself. 1 copy he used to show the British. He used to say, this is the rough copy, this is not required. On the way back home, he used to give that copy to Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty, number 13 Armenian Street, have tea with him and go. Till then, in Madras Presidency, police and tax authorities were together. You didn't have a department called as intelligence department till this event. From what we know, you had military intelligence, you had naval intelligence, that was different. For local thing amongst that, you did not have such a well organized intelligence network what we have today through the intelligence. We did not have it at that point of time. So what the British were unfounded, they had no idea how did this get printed. Then they conducted an inquiry. In Armenian Street, you had another newspaper called as the Madras Record newspaper. There was a person who was there called Samuel Bowie. He wanted to become the editor of Madras Crescent because that was the largest subscribed native newspaper of Madras. It was the most happening newspaper in Madras at that point of time. So he went for a job offer with Gazulu Lakshminarasu Chetty. He was an English person. Gazulu said, I'm sorry boss, I already have Harvey, so I cannot have you. So he is already there, I don't have a vacancy. I can make you as a sub-editor if Harvey says yes. He joined as a sub-editor. He was found to be in company of Scotch whiskey quite very often, and Harvey said, I can't have you here, please, I am a naval person, even I have Scotch but not during my work, so I cannot have you, and he went out of the Madras Crescent. He worked with the Madras Crescent for very few months. After he went out, but he knew in that very few months, this is how the paperwork was being done. So he wanted to take revenge on Harvey, and he wanted to take revenge on this Venkatacharyalu Naidu, because there was a fight between him and Venkatacharyalu Naidu when they met in the Madras Crescent office. It is all there as part of the investigation which we have taken from the Madras archives, which is a 200-year-old handwritten note by the British, which we have in the books. That's how we come to know of this. We are not making up things. So what happened after that was, there was an inquiry which was conducted, by which time the inquiry was conducted by the Governor Marquis of Tweedledale, Sir George Hay. This person called Venkatacharyalu Naidu becomes the head translator of Telugu in Chengalpet district. He is posted as with the promotion to Chengalpet district. So what happens after that is, there is a summary inquiry conducted, and the British government dismisses this particular person called Venkatacharyalu Naidu. Interestingly, he comes and he has another newspaper which he is starting through the help of Gazulu Lakshminarasu Chetty, that is called as the Rising Sun newspaper, which is a very important word, which is there, which proof we have the documentary evidence of that. Now there is few other things that Gazulu Lakshminarasu Chetty did during his lifetime. I will just sum it up in just about 5 minutes time, not beyond that. Point 1 was, the British were planning to introduce Bible as a mandatory curriculum. I am talking about the British Christian missionaries, not our Indian Christian missionaries. Our Indian Christian missionaries are our brothers. So I would like to say that on record. We have British Christian missionaries. They were planning to introduce the Bible as a mandatory curriculum. If you need to be proficient in geography, if you need to be proficient in trigonometry, in maths, you need to know geometry. A square plus B square is equal to how much? You need to know where Jesus was born. That is a basic thing for you to have entrance into schools, even for you to have access to libraries. This was your predominant base requirement for you to do, which was there by the British, which is all recorded. In 7th of October 1846, 12,000 people, despite rains, it was monsoon at that point of time in Madras, outside Pachayappa College, they came, and it was a huge demonstration. The British had not seen this kind of demonstration ever in their lives at that point of time. It was a huge demonstration. They demonstrated against this particular thing being happening, and they documented a memorial which we have kept, a copy which we have kept. The chairman of that meeting is Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty. That is why we have over here as chairman Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty. Now they write down all the atrocities, what all happened between the Christian missionaries at that point of time and how they were in cahoots with the British authorities. They write to the governor and to the 3 members who are in the governing council. The composition of the East India Company at the point of time is you have the governor and the other members in the governing council. Now when this thing is brought up before the British, they try to say we will just close it. They just came, they protested, we will close it. Unfortunately or fortunately for British, you had a person called Henry Chamius. His father was John Chamius, who was Chief Secretary of Madras. Henry Chamius was a member in the governing council of Madras. He was born in Madras, had education back in England, and he came back to Madras. At that point of time, Henry Chamius wrote not 1, not 2, but he wrote 3 dissenting minutes against the British introducing Bible as a mandatory language. We have kept those minutes. Those handwritten minutes copies we have kept. No history book will teach you this. Please be mindful of this. There will be no history book in India which will tell you this. We have brought this out in our book. This was stopped. This introduction of mandatory Bible, it was stopped. Because of this one man's effort of Gazulu Lakshminarasu Chetty, it was stopped. Otherwise, we don't know how many of us, what religion will be, we don't know. I don't want to be controversial, but still we have recorded, so I'll make it very clear. Third thing what Gazulu Lakshminarasu Chetty did was, on 26th of February 1852, he started what is the first political organization for Madras Presidency. It is called the Madras Native Association, which was there in number 13 Armenian Street. I will not take beyond 3 minutes. I will just say what he has done. In number 13 Armenian Street, he had at that point of time, we have all news channels right now, newspapers right now to cater to the ideologies. I am not saying about my state, so please, I am sorry. See, we are in Telangana. I said I am not saying about my state. If you are thinking it wrong, I am not responsible. I have to go back to my state. So, at that point of time, we had a newspaper called Rising Sun at that point of time.
Today also there is a Rising Sun.
I don't know about that. See, he started this organization called Madras Native Association 8 years after he started the Madras Crescent newspaper. In the printing press that he started, like he said, he not only had it for this particular thing, he had for various other things. He had it for how Sanskrit and how maths are one and the same. What we have, Srinivasa Ramanujam, what he did in Cambridge, we had people at that point of time using something to see astronomy at that point of time. This is recorded, and it was published through this works called Upayukta Grantha Karana Sabha, Madras Mahajana Upayukta Grantha Karana Sabha. He was head of various institutions. Interestingly, he was also he was a trustee of one institution called Monega Chowdhury, which is called Maniyakara Chatram, which is a place where when Hyder Ali came, the entire area was in famine. In Madras, I am talking about North Madras, there was one temple, Maniyakara is temple's manager, one temple manager who knew that he was coming. So underground he kept rice bags. When Hyder Ali went, he bought all those rice bags out. He was feeding 30,000 people 3 times a day. That I did not say, the British have said that. That became known as Maniyakara Chatram. That is where we have the Stanley Hospital today. Now in Maniyakara Chatram, there were 2 main important directors. You have 2 categories of directors. One is the native director, European director. The native director was Gazulu Lakshminarasu Chetty, because they were in charge of doing the charity activities, feeding the poor people as much as possible. Poor feeding, what we call as Annadana. That point of time they did that. The European director was Captain Christopher Biden. Yes, Captain Christopher Biden, who is supposed to be an ancestor of Joe Biden. Supposed to be. I don't know if he's there or not. I don't know. I can't say that. Tomorrow there will be some organization against me doing something. So I'll make it very clear. I don't know. I've said in the book also I don't know. But there was a very good person called Captain Christopher Biden who was Irish Catholic. That is also incidental and coincidental that he is Irish Catholic. And you had him having an agreement with Gazula because it was in the same Armenian street. They both were board of directors in Maniakara Chatram, and he had a library of 800 books, which through an agreement he shared it to the subscribers of Madras Crescent in Madras. So if the British were giving you no access to library just because you wouldn't know or be proficient in one particular religion or something of that sort, you had the Madras Crescent which said, you subscribe to my newspaper, I will give you accessory to a library which is there by a white man. This minimum thing they were able to do. Coming back to Madras Native Association. Madras Native Association, immediately after it was started based on the British Indian Association, which was started in in Calcutta. Madras Native Association was one of the most important first association which was started for emancipation for the rights of us natives. The reason why we say that he's fought so much is because of Madras Native Association. No other person in Madras at that point of time in 1852 to 1858 has fought so much. What he did was, he did a British on the British. So what the Conservative Party did or the Whig Party did in London, he adopted the same strategy. He had a successful newspaper as the mouthpiece to say his ideas in each and every district, starting from Vengurla in this side towards Karnataka and this side Ganjam towards the east. District wise, they had people who were members of this organization. They used to have resolutions week after week, meetings after meetings, resolutions after resolutions, asking for better emancipation of us natives, to have better representation in government jobs and for various other aspects. One very important thing that they did at the point of time was torture with regard to taxation. The British were collecting tax. They were doing torture for collecting tax. I don't want to say what torture they did because it is really below my dignity to say what torture they did, because it is so inhuman what the British did with regard to imposing of torture, the manner in which they tortured us as natives. How many people died as a result of the torture? It was unimaginable. It was unimaginable, because when you see that the person who was responsible for doing that as a judge, he started crying. The British person, he started crying. That is how worse it was. It was worse than what the British did in Ireland. That is how worse it was. So what happened was, he sent memorials after memorials. What Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty did through Madras Native Association was, memorials after memorials were sent to London, to the House of Commons in Great Britain. At that point of time, in the Parliament, had 5 people. Earl of Ellenborough, because I have a chapter called A Few Good Englishmen, were white British members of Parliament belonging to the ruling party of Britain at that point of time. Just imagine this for a moment. In England, they were white British people, they were members of Parliament of Great Britain in the House of Commons, and they were belonging to the members of the ruling party at that point of time. Earl of Ellenborough, the Earl of Albemarle, I would like to say their names because they were towards our cause. The Earl of Ellenborough, Earl of Albemarle, you had people like Henry Danby Seymour, who was a very pivotal person in bringing this thing to the fore, who was a member of the full constituency of Great Britain, and you had various other people. At that point of time, you had a person by name Mr. Blackett. They were not ordinary people. They were not land-owned class. They were the top elite people at that point of time. They were the who's who in Great Britain at that point of time. All right. These people, after coming to know these memorials, they were shocked. So what happened was, in the House of Parliament, you just imagine this for a moment. Forget our Parliament, our Secretariat, our Assembly, we need not go into that. Think for a moment, in Great Britain's Parliament, in House of Commons, this was the matter of debate for 3 continuous days. Not 1, not 2, but 3 continuous days in London. And in all leading newspapers in London, we have kept the copies. It came in headlines. For a person from Madras to have created this impact in London society at that point of time is not an ordinary thing. It is not an ordinary thing to do it in our own state. Doing it in London at that point of time against the British, that is what I said, doing a British against the British. That is what he did. At that point of time, there was a discussion which took place. It was put to vote. For the first time, from what I can see, for past 10 years, the house was not divided, which means they will say yes or they will say no. When this matter was put to vote, whether we need to have a commission to inquire into the findings of the torture which took place in Madras, when this matter was put into vote, the house was divided, neither yes nor no, which means 62 yes, 62 no. The house was divided. It was a hung assembly. It was one of the most major political embarrassments for the British government at that point of time. The Russian Tsar had ridiculed, because they were having system of smurfs against Tsar Nicholas Alexander or whoever was there at that point of time in 1850s. They had a system of smurfs in Russia. So the British were mocking at them. Incidentally, you had a person by name Mr. Wilson, Harold, his name is Wilson, who was the person who was responsible for introducing the budget in India as we know. We have a budget every year, we all know that. It was introduced by Mr. Wilson, and that Wilson person was voting against this torture commission. Alright. He himself came from a farming community family. He was not a very well known person at that point of time. At this point of time, they were mocking, he was instrumental in starting the Economist newspaper, that Wilson person, which we have even now today. He is buried in Calcutta. He wrote articles against the Russian Tsar. Karl Marx had criticized Wilson for being an elitist conservative person of the British. That is how Wilson was, that Wilson of that point of time. Now, what happened was, after the house was divided, Queen Victoria intervened and said, you people are doing all these things in my name. Please, that we have the communications, you please make sure that you have a commission being established to inquire into what happened in Madras. Immediately a commission was appointed in Madras, not like our commissions what we do in Indian government. It was a proper commission. We had commissions where we had the governor, we had a person by name Sir John Bruce Norton, who later on became the Advocate General of the Madras High Court, who was a very close friend of Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty, and you had Sir Walter Elliot. If you see the findings, because it was the first time that they gave notice, they called for hearings from the people. There were testaments, there were documentary evidence tabulated through what happened in the eyes of the natives. This is the first time that the white person was giving a lending ear to all the torture that was committed, as if a sea of afflicted had come to lodge their grievances with regard to the British. If you see the kind of torture that they have committed, it is documented through witness. This is not an ordinary thing. Documented through witness in thousands. It is there. Frequently they broke down. The British administrators didn't know the kind of the huge amount, the mammoth amount of torture that was the undercurrent which was in them. They didn't know. It was at that point of time that they realized we have been so, we have been so inhuman in this spite of all our, outside thing that we will give education, we are equal to everybody, long live the glorious king, all those things. Despite that, despite these virtual things of the Western hypocrisy that we know, they did this. After doing this, they sent a report. That report, through a recommendation, is very historical. It said 3 things, or rather 5 things. I'll sum it off after that. First and foremost, torture as a method for collecting tax against natives shall be abolished. Point number 2, till then you had the police and the revenue, which was a single unit at that point of time. After that, the dehyphenation started. Police, as we know today, is a separate department, and the revenue, which were separated at that point of time. And third, all those people who were responsible for this torture, including the native people who had to do that to please their British masters, including the native people who were responsible for doing torture to please their British masters, including them and the British people, like a person by name Mr. Shubrik, including them, they will be brought to task and justice will be given. In fact, it was followed up and it was given. This was taken to the House of Commons. Immediately it was signed, and as we know today, we are living today, police is separate, revenue administration is separate, torture is not there in collection of tax. This was responsible because of this one person called Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty. If not for him, this would not have happened. If not for him, this would not have happened. Now, after the first war of independence, in 1861 we had a Charter Act. The British knew very well that he had been the driving force in ensuring that in a non-violent manner, in a purely democratic manner, he had done something for his own native people. So, Queen Victoria at that point of time was in a reproachment attitude towards us Indians. So, what she did was in 1864 on Tamil New Year's Day, on 15th of April in Tamil New Year's Day at that point of time, 14th of April he was appointed, 15th of April he took his seat. He became a member, a honorary nominated member, the second native honorary nominated member of the Madras Legislative Council. You know, interestingly, he was responsible for writing in the Madras Crescent that you are giving gun salute, higher number of gun salute to the bishop of Madras and Bombay. You are not giving a higher number of gun salutes to the the Chief Justice, or you are not giving the higher number of gun salutes for your own naval admirals who is responsible for your stay in India. After that, in this point of time, when he became a honorable member, he was accorded a 15 gun salute by the British. Just imagine this for a moment. He was accorded a 15 gun salute by the British, which was
salute to the pastors was stopped.
Stopped. The gun salute to the British bishops was stopped, and it was given to Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty. Last but not the least, he then was awarded something called as the Order of the Star of Companion of India at the hands of Queen Victoria. And he also had a newspaper called Madras and Carnatic Telegraph Exchange Gazette, which was a pioneer newspaper for information technology at that point of time. At that point of time, the only information technology that we had was telegraph. It was a huge thing at that point of time. After that, in 1868, unfortunately, he passed away. After his passing away, his son Narsimulu Chetty became, till his death, he was a trustee of Pachepa College, of Pachepa Charities. His son Narsimulu Chetty became a trustee in Pachepa College after that in 1868. And there was a memorial which was held in his honor, which was held by Sir John Bruce Norton, who was also a member at that point of time, and he was the Advocate General at that point of time of Madras Presidency, and he was the founding member of the Madras Bar Association at that point of time. His portrait was commissioned through public subscription through John Fonseca. That portrait is even now there in Pachepas, for which we are having a memorial on the 6th of September, which is 5 days or 6 days from now. After that, what happened after that? Just 1 minute, it is very interesting. This 1 minute will be very interesting. You had a person by name, Eardley Norton, who was the son of John Bruce Norton, Sir Eardley Norton. He also became an Advocate General in his own right. He was called as the Lion of the Madras Bar. Eardley Norton was called as the Lion of the Madras Bar. He had a friend called Bhashyam Iyengar, who has a statue in the Madras High Court premises. He was the first native Advocate General at that point of time. And then you had another person who was son of a pleader, who was a teacher, called Tanjavur Dikshitar Subramanya Iyer. These three people are very important. What they did, I will just tell you, and I will finish off. They came together, they revived the Madras Native Association. Again, in 1883, Bhashyam Iyengar was the president, Eardley Norton was their chief advisor, legal advisor, and you had this Tanjavur Ganapati Dikshitar Subramanya Iyer as the secretary of Madras Native Association. The Hindu newspaper, as we know today, was founded by Tanjavur Dikshitar Ganapati Subramanya Iyer. It was subsequently later on purchased by Kasturi Rangan Iyengar from this person called Tanjavur Dikshitar Ganapati Subramanya Iyer. Even today, we are thankful to the Hindu group for giving us access to their premises, for ensuring that we took the photo of the bust of Tanjavur Dikshitar Subramanya Iyer, which is still there in the first floor in the Hindu office, which we have kept in the book. It is there in the book, which was raised through public subscription. And he was the secretary of the Madras Native Association at that point of time. And Vempakam Bhashyam Iyengar became the president of Madras Native Association. He then became a judge also of the Madras High Court. At that point of time, the people who were leading the Madras Native Association, what they did was, they formed a group called Madras Mahajana Sabha, which we can see from the Madras Mahajana Sabha anniversary celebrations. A splinter group from that, which metamorphized, went and founded what we know today as the Indian National Congress. So the root starts from there. That is how it is. This is what we have done in this book. We have taken handwritten materials from the British Library. We have taken handwritten materials from the Madras Archives. The Madras Archives is a treasure of handwritten materials. We have 200-year-old handwritten materials which we have taken through archives from the Madras Archives, which is now called as the Tamil Nadu Historical Archives, which we have taken, which we have kept in the book to support all our claims, what I just said right now. It is through documentary evidence which we have proved. So this is how we wrote the book, and I would like to once again thank all of you for being patient over here and for all of you to have listened to my speech very patiently. This is what the book is all about. Copy also of the book to others, and please make sure that each and every person whom you meet, you indulge in a conversation with them so that you spread the fame through word of mouth about Gazula Lakshminarasu Chetty to others. That is the minimum that we can do for these freedom fighters who fought for us. If not for him, we all would have been completely different. So if not for him, to sacrifice that kind of work what he did in Sidhu Chetty and Sons, he could have made it an international company. Yes. He did not do that. He said, I will use my wealth to ensure that, to show to the British, I am equal to you. That we as native Indians, as Hindus, we are equal to the white British imperialistic people at that point of time. To sum it all up, I would like to thank all of you for being patient, and especially CSIS and G for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much, Sudhakar Ji, for coming, and also Kasturi Ranganji, thank you so much for coming. He is incidentally named after the founder of the Hindu, the purchaser of the Hindu. He is named after the person who purchased the newspaper. He was in fact a freedom fighter. Kasturi Ranganayyangar in fact was a freedom fighter. He is named after him. So yeah, you are named after him. He was born before you. He in fact died before he was born. So we would like to honor him at that point of time. Kasturi Ranganayyangar himself, because we are talking about journalism, he himself was a freedom fighter, and he had this pride with him that he was an Indian. So we have to honor him, keeping jokes apart. We have great respect for him. So I would like to thank all of you for being patient and for listening to my speech. Thank you all of you. Thank you.